Hello, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. My business is The Phenomenal STEMist. I'm so excited to be here in Orange County because it's where I live. I live in Apopka, Florida. And I decided to make this business because I saw a need for underrepresented students to be successful in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, math. And the best way I can do that is just provide products for parents to prepare them, whether it's a book or online STEM camps or just video podcasting. My goal is to transform this community, especially those who are underrepresented. And the way to do that is to help parents understand their children's minds and basically develop them at different stages of their lives to be prepared for a successful STEM career. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here. Hey, 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 it's the phenomenal STEMist. How are you guys doing? What happened to Howard? We lost him. We lost Howard today. He just didn't come in. Shout out to my special guests. I'm waiting on Mr. Howard Webley. We have Dr. Kamoy Harris and uh, Mr. Jamal Hardage. They are here today to talk about advancing in leadership in STEM. Uh, Please send a special heart to one of my dearest friends, Rochelle Harris. She couldn't make it today because of an emergency. Our hearts are with you, and can't wait to see you next month. I don't know where Howard is. What's going on? What's going on, Kamoy and Jamal?
Still rebooting.
He's probably rebooting again. Oh man. Well, we're gonna jump right into it because I really only have a short period of time, um, and I really want to talk about our experience in leadership, in our different ways of leadership. Um, First off, remind people what you guys do. Like, you don't have to be specific, but just remind people what you do. So I'll talk about myself. My name is Dr. Maya Byfield. I'm a professor of biology. I've been teaching at the college space for over 20 years, but my current institution for almost 18 years. So I'm a seasoned, tenured professor of biology. I'm also a principal investigator for a National Science Foundation grant, um, and I run a research program. So my leadership roles play a role in being a director, principal investigator of a STEM program and research program. Tell me about yourselves as we wait on Mr. Webley. Anyone?
Hi, I can say my name, yeah, Jamal, and well, I'm a director of automation at a pharmaceutical company. So what I do is manage kind of moving data from automation lines or from from high throughput mechanisms, and kind of make it so that people can read it and understand it or transport it somewhere else.
Cool, cool.
Mm.
Welcome, Mr. Howard Webley. He made
Yes,
it.
yes, he's here. I like it.
We're just introducing ourselves and our basic roles. You don't have to get that specific. Go ahead, Dr. Kamoy Harris.
I'm Kamoy. I am an obstetrician gynecologist, but I do subspecialize in maternal fetal medicine, which is basically high risk pregnancies. I don't have an official leadership title, but I do quite a bit of mentorship. I guess, technically a faculty attending physician with the OBGYN residency program. So that's, I guess, kind of my leadership role in that regard.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. Webley, can you hear?
Mhm.
I don't think Howard can hear. Howard, can you hear? Oh, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh,
There we
can
Yeah, I
you?
go.
was muted.
Hmm.
Can you
Oh,
hear me
okay,
now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We're
Okay.
asking you to introduce
Yes.
yourself.
Okay. So yeah, Howard Webley, microbiologist with a federal government agency, primarily uh, food microbiology. And so that's the area that I pretty much reside in. Um, was there anything else in addition to that with the?
Yeah, no, like, where you might see yourself in leadership. Like, how Dr.
Yeah.
Harris
So
said, I don't really see myself as
I
a leadership role, but,
Right. And I don't actually, I'm not in an actual or I should say an official leadership role. But I operate as a lead microbiologist, as a lead scientist in my area, or I should say senior scientist. Oh, let me retract that. Not a lead, but a senior scientist. And so I end up in um, situations where I'm doing a lot of training, especially for onboarding for new analysts that come on when it comes to different types of analyses that they have to get under their belt to begin the process of working in our lab. Um, and but there's other aspects that I play also when it comes to, like you said, mentorship and just really showing people the ropes when it comes to this new space, navigating this new space. And I take pride in that. I like doing it, actually.
awesome, awesome. Whoever's watching, I just want you to do me a favor and chat. Put yourself in the chat and share what you do, what you're interested in. But we're gonna jump right into your personal journey. Can each of you share a pivotal moment in your career that significantly influenced your path toward leadership? What was the pivotal moment in your career that has influenced your path, whether it is to be in leadership or to want to be in leadership? Do you want to be in leadership? um I'll talk about myself first, and you, as you guys think about something. A pivotal point in my career was when I decided to push past just working as a professor, but to go for a grant. When you go for a grant, when you go for funding for national institutions, there's going to be an expectation of leadership for you, and uh, I like what I do, just teaching. So pushing past to play an administrative role um, was triggered by my desire to learn more. I wanted to get a grant. I wanted to give opportunities to students, and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be able to do a lot of professional development and grow. And in growth led to my leadership position. What was a pivotal moment that led to that shift? Jamal, I'll let you go first, since you actually have a director position.
I don't. To me, it's interesting. I don't know if there was necessarily pivotal moment. In terms of what I do now, I think it was just the desire to be a great at what I do, right? And I'm talking about like the technical side. And so I was really, really fortunate and blessed that like when I started doing the like software development. So once I finished running my business, I started doing software development and I worked for some folks that, they literally thought they were Google, right? They were on it. They were like everything was precise, and they were the whole operation was ran real strategically. And so with that, it showed me how programming was supposed to be done professionally. And so piggybacking off how it's supposed to be done professionally, and then actually going through and fine tuning it and studying and growing, it's like the trajectory kind of just pushes you that way, right? Because then you start um, knowing enough to now go in and talk and take, kind of bring others up or help, steer the direction of work. And I think that a lot of it, personality plays in it as well. So some people, they could reach that point of professionalism, right? Of knowing the content, but then you still have to be able to work with people, right? And so is if you could work with people and then you kind of understand and are at a good space in your craft, it kind of like a force that pushes you, right? You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I got. So there wasn't necessarily a pivotal moment. It was just, kind of brick by brick. You just learn what you're doing, and then,
You just
at some point, yeah, at some point, do that. I think when I had my business, I mean, this is somewhat leadership, but just probably more so entrepreneurship. It was just kind of out of necessity, right? We needed to make money. And so it was like, okay, you know what? I already have this skill and I'm already working with people doing this. And so just found a way to turn that in, kind of monetize it. And so that was kind of being hoist into that, you know what I mean? And so it was, I don't want to say it was necessarily pivotal, but I've learned a lot of lessons through that, you know what I mean? So it was
mm,
a lot of shaping, but yeah, I think in terms of leadership and like the path STEM wise, it was understanding and learning the craft, and then kind of letting not letting it just take you, but still kind of steering the ship. But it
fell
kind
into
of
place.
yeah, it kind of falls into place.
Sometimes it does like that,
Yeah.
yeah, it falls into place.
Yeah, I think making the next jump though is like, it takes you so far, but then like the next jump, going
Mhm.
from like director to VP, then that becomes more of a, all right, you know what? I have to put, yeah, like you have to be laser focused on that, you know what I mean? But, you know, up to where I'm at, it just kind of happened.
Okay. Appreciate that. Kamoy and Howard, do you guys want to be in leadership? And what if you do? What was the pivotal moment that says yes, or is there a pivotal moment where you recognize, yeah, this is leadership for me? You could answer it any way you want.
So yes and no in terms of wanting to go into leadership. That for at least specifically for my field means picking up an administrative role, um, which I don't want to do it. But that's just my personal. It's just not something that brings me that much joy. And I have to tell you the in full transparency, as you guys have probably all experienced how broken the medical system is. So taking on a leadership role is something that you should be passionate about before you even decide to do it. I think there's a role for for us taking these roles, but you have to want to do it. It's not for the weak. But in terms of where I am now, I don't have an official leadership title, but I do lead others in my everyday life. And one of the I wouldn't say it was one particular moment, it was just something that I kind of noticed during my training, was that weren't a lot of people that looked like us around, but a lot of the patients looked like us.
Mm.
And that was really big for me, because I'm like, well, where are my people? Why aren't there more of us in this thing? So similar to just this whole thing that Maya does, I certainly want. That's why I do so much mentorship. I really want to see more of us
Mhm.
coming into these kinds of fields, and
Space.
taking up space and trying to make a difference, because a lot of the people that are affected by some of the worst of these systems, they look like us.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. That's powerful. Howie?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah, that was
That's
powerful.
really what it is, and that's sort of I think that that influences me, my perspective a little bit in terms of like, because I never wanted to be, especially when you think of leadership in my arena, the first thing that comes to mind is first line manager. And first line manager in the work that I do is a whole lot of work. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of dynamics to it. It's ever shifting, ever moving. And I feel like a lot of people who end up in it they want it for the wrong reasons. And then once they're in it, then it totally hits them, blindsides them. Um, because of this arena, this STEM arena, is particularly in like in the hard sciences, like a laboratory type of environment. Most folk aren't really. I mean, that's just the nature of STEM. Most folk don't go into STEM to be people.
Right,
People persons.
right.
And so a lot of times we end up with managers who can really who've honed in on their craft, like you said, Jamal, but they really are lacking a lot of people skills,
Mhm.
and that's something I found out about myself that I was kind of balanced. I sort of I really did. I didn't want to deal with people, um, but in other aspects of my life, other things that I was doing, mentoring outside of the workplace and dealing with young people, young adults, etc. I was already sort of operating that way when it came to encouraging and mentoring and so forth. So. What I did, because my agency is so vast, what I wanted to do in order to grow was do some field work. I wanted to learn more in terms of honing in my craft. I wanted to learn more about what we actually did as an agency. So I went the route of exploring different aspects of the work that we do. And then when I did that, similar to what you were saying, Maya, when I went and did that to challenge myself to learn more, then I ended up being and having
Mhm.
this more robust and more well-rounded, thing to bring to the table. But again, I'm still not. We have opportunities to do temporary positions, temporary managerial positions, temporary. I have done that since I've returned back to the lab, and it just hasn't fully
For both, yeah.
it hasn't scratched the itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't created the itch very much. But like Kamoy said, this opportunity to sort of occupy different spaces in order to influence, in order to show people that hey, we're here, and to influence other folk to come in and feel comfortable. It's really the STEM environment in the hard sciences is a really tough place to feel comfortable, to feel like you belong. And so it really is huge. I know when I first came in, to see people in positions doing the work and encouraging me, and they weren't necessarily in
Mhm.
managerial positions. And I feel like I've gravitated to that sort of work where I'm influencing from where I am, and I'm realizing that that's also making a difference on the ground. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think about putting myself in the space. I gave away about over $400,000 worth of scholarships in these past 5 years, and I've seen
Yeah, that's awesome.
multiple students um, graduating from college, going to different types of STEM fields because I decided to, underrepresented minority students and women getting opportunities, and I've seen them travel the world on internships, and it's because I decided to step into that space.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Period. Period. So we need to be in these spaces to help our people. Number two, overcoming challenges. What are some unique challenges you faced as STEM professionals in leadership positions, and how did you overcome them? I think my biggest challenge in leadership, especially since my gift is visionary but not administrative, I just don't like the administrative work. It's taken a toll on me. It's taken a toll on me, like having a lot to do. I've had a lot to do for the last 5 years, much more than it was when all I was doing was teaching and maybe running a STEM program. So, how have I overcome it? I've created boundaries for myself. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not doing certain things at certain times, and if things don't get done, they just don't get done. And I show myself grace because I'm not going to burn myself out for something that I'm really passionate about and I want to continue in it. I have to, set boundaries of my time. What about you guys? What are some challenges you faced in leadership positions, or have you seen in leadership positions in STEM specifically? Hmm.
Yeah, for me, I would say that moving into leadership adds like another dynamic to stuff that you already have to do.
Yeah.
Because when you're in leadership, it's not like you don't need to know about the business, right? It's not that you don't need to know how things operate or kind of oversee that stuff. So you still have to keep your hands on knowing like your skills, like you still have to be learning. But then at the same time, you still have to manage and just like you said, administrative stuff, and you have to manage people, right? You have to make sure people have stuff to do. You have to make sure that the overall goal is getting done. And so trying to blend those two worlds together, sometimes is difficult in terms of time and just like you said, boundaries, right? And I think the way that I try to overcome that is the efficiency. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the more efficient I can be in streamlining processes, and like the more efficient I can be in making sure that tasks are ordered ahead of time, and they're just being doled out. The better things are. So that's pretty much how I overcome that. But that's the for me that's the most difficult part, is still keeping track of, all right, I have to know the technical stuff. I still have to be great at that. But now I also have to be great at another aspect as well. And so yeah, I would say that would be.
Okay. Any challenges you guys would like to talk about?
I also want to say hiring, which is crazy. Like we're gonna talk
Hier-
about yeah,
Hierarchy.
we're gonna talk about, yeah, no, hiring. So I would
Hierarchy.
say, like we'll talk about diversity and stuff in a little bit, but just hiring in general. So like when we're hiring, like I'm super fortunate. Like the place I work at is like it's really diverse. Like, it's not like it when you step in, you see people from everywhere. Like I was in the office, a couple days ago, and I'm hearing Creole and you're Russian. Like it's just super diverse. Um, but when we put out like things to get software developers and things like that, there's not too many of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think out of all the times we were hiring for developers, and we're not hiring a million of them, but in the times we put out for developers or automation techs or things like that, the amount of applicants we get that look like us is really, really low. And so I don't think I've interviewed any. And so I think that's the tough part, is that sometimes the jobs are out there, but either like we're not enough of the pool, if that's the thing. And so I would say, in terms of a challenge, like you want to hire like definitely best people. And so it's just, I would say that's one of the, because I will always want to make sure I bring diversity and stuff in the building. um but it has to
You
be
gotta have the
there. So
skill
I
set.
think that,
You gotta have the skill
yeah,
set.
you have to have the skill set. And so I think that's a difficulty. And also making sure, even when it's not diversity, just making sure people that come into the team, they don't throw off the balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't throw off the balance.
What about you guys? Any challenges? No.
Sometimes I'm sometimes I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Just very tired. I don't even know how to explain it any better than that. And just like, you
Yeah.
know,
It's true. That
Why
really
the
is. That's big.
and you see people that you know, are in your field and they've taken some other paths that give them this really nice cushy life, and you're like, what am I doing to myself? And I think I just have to, you know, just to answer your question about how to overcome it. You know, just remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what keeps me in this path. You know, being in a space where I'm visible, so people who look like me can be inspired to want to do what I'm doing, but also, you know, to try to expose them when I can, to what I'm doing. I have students come in and shadow me and things like that. That in and of itself is a reward, and helps to kind of keep me motivated. Because I'm telling you, sometimes I just want to curl up under the blanket and I would say that's, you know, that's probably my one of my biggest challenges right now.
For sure, for sure. How are you? Like you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. You know, I would say from my situation where I'm not actually in a leadership role, but at least official, it's tough to it's tough to observe leadership. It's tough to be when you have the seniority and when you've been
Mm,
through a ton of managers and seen leaders. And because one of the things I also, you know, the blessing that I've had is being in different regions, and we'll talk about it further when it comes to different regions having different cultures, and the
mm,
way that they operate. And so as a result of that, seeing the variation in leadership, um, and literally seeing, you know, people becoming a leader for the first time, and honestly, sometimes they look at you as a as a potential, you know, barrier, you know, and someone who's you know, a competition or kind of things like that, because you come with more experience than they do, and so they may feel, you know, a little bit, um you know, what's the word, just not offended but just
intimidated?
intimidated. Thank you. Intimidated by it. And so one of the things, so I tend to, I a lot of the folk, I already knew them because they were on the bench with, I may have even trained them, right? They've been on the bench with me already, so they know where I'm coming from. But for those who did not have that experience with me, they don't know how to, they're not sure, you know? And so you have to, the challenge is just trying to, you know, let them know that, hey, this is what I'm here for. And that's, and some may have the question in the back of their minds, how, why is that? That's another challenge that I face. Why is this guy not a leader? Why is he not? He seems like he's got A, B, C, D. Why is he not in a leadership role? And that may sometimes cause folk to, you know, there to be you know, unconscious things towards you as to, you know, as to, you know, how they're viewing you, how they're seeing you, and you have to sort of deal with that. You know, I've experienced microaggressions as a result of that, where it's like, wait, where's that coming from? Like, I'm curious where that comment is coming from, you know. So it's interesting. So what I do, I've got to refocus, like Kamor said, and say, okay, why am I here? What am I trying to do? What was the decision that I made at this point, you know, as to why I'm here and what am I doing? You know.
yeah, love it, love it. So, how important has mentorship been in your journey to leadership? And what advice would you give to those seeking mentors in the STEM field? What I will say, and I think this is for many African American professionals, I don't have a lot of mentors. The last mentor that I had that I can honestly say showed me the ropes was my PI, my principal investigator that helped me that was guided me to my PhD. I don't have a mentor that guided me to say, okay, this is how you do this to get tenure. This is how you do this to get a STEM grant. This is how you do this to. I think many Black professionals don't have that. I can say one of my colleagues, who's older than me, really helped me on my journey in being a professor for biology classes. She helped me, gave me tips and slides on for my classes. You know, I could say that person helped me, be a better professor for the class that I hadn't taught. But everything else, it was by the grace of God that I'm just moving. Like Jamal said, just lucking out to things. People see me and they're like, "Oh, you should do this." And I don't know if that's a mentor, saying, "Hey, you should write a grant." Okay, I'll help you write a grant. I don't know if they're a mentor. They're giving me an opportunity, but they didn't really. Are they a mentor? I don't know. So I guess we can talk about that. Like, what is a mentor? I don't see. I don't. I didn't have much mentorship. I don't think. What about you guys? Do you have much mentorship?
Yeah,
I'm
I would
mentoring
say
people. I feel like I'm the one mentoring, but nobody above me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jamal.
no, I was gonna say I think that I hear people that they say that, and I've seen people who've had mentors, and I love the concept, right? The concept is like it's great, and I'm sure people benefit from it. But for me personally, I I haven't had a career mentor or someone who can kind of navigate help me navigate the path, right? I've had many people pour into me and and help me grow, whether it's spiritually or like just as a person, but not really career wise. I've just been fortunate to land and really like have really good managers above me, right? And so I could see that, but we're not going to go shoot the breeze and kind of chat about my career and all that. And I don't know. I think some of it is just culture based, right? Like some of the people you look at and they're nice people, but it's not it's not an environment for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think it's a it'd be nice, but no, I haven't had any that I could think of and and pinpoint and say, hey, you know what, I sat down and I chatted and and we've kind of talked about not even just career advancement, right? That's not the sole reason, but just like, hey, how did you get to where you are? This and that, just to have, casual conversations about, the inner workings of what's going on. So, um, yeah, I've seen it. And when I've seen it, it works really well.
Yeah.
It
It,
works,
it works
yeah, it
for a
works
lot
really
of people.
well.
Not.
Yeah, it works really well. Um, and but yeah, so that's the only thing. I think for me, I think a lot of it is culture based. It's just all right. The way I approach things, the way I talk to people, the way I interact. Um, I don't know. It just sometimes some people just feel like they can get together and kind of talk, and it's I don't know. It's just not a. I think cultures just don't really mesh a lot of times because it's not too much of us that need to be pulled up, and and then when there is a lot of us, it's one of the like, okay, how do you reach people that look like me inside the organization and talk, and then then you're building a relationship with someone that may be fully across the so I don't know,
And
it's
probably
different.
inside, not necessarily hierarchy where they could pull me up.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's one thing I can say.
Y'all have
um
any mentors, Kamoy, Howie? Any y'all have mentors, or you're like me? And
I do. I have to be. I'm very thankful. I think
mhm,
that I've had a lot of mentors, and to be honest, I probably because trained in New York, studied and trained in New York. I felt like I had quite a bit of people even look like me, look like us, mentoring. I think a part of it is that I also went to find those people.
mm,
So
that's
I
part.
think that you have, I think a part of it is just the initiative. There are some, and the thing is, like, people get busy. But if you identify yourself as, wanting help, there are people who would probably be willing to help you. So But I'm without mentorship, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I think it's super important, and you know, maybe you just have to do a little bit of searching and digging to find somebody who's willing to do that.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback off of that, Kamoya, and I don't know if this is the space for it, but I think that what you said is 100% true.
Yeah,
Like you have to actually go and seek it.
think it.
And that's the part that sometimes is the rub for me, because it's like, okay, you know what, I go seek this person, and then now you, like, I've had the litany of, okay, this is how you kind of start the conversation, this is what you talk about, but it's one of those, like, how do you, like, navigating those waters. And so that's one piece of the puzzle I haven't really quite, the secret sauce I haven't.
You
It's
know,
hard. You're right. It's hard.
it's crazy, Jamal. I teach students how to find mentors. It's
Yeah,
amazing. I'm not even eating my own, drinking my own Kool
I
Aid.
hear you. I
Won't even. I'm like, I can tell you exactly how to
That's
do
what to
it.
do.
I
I can
train
tell you.
people how to do it. Here I am, don't have one because I'm not doing it for myself. That's something I have to have a come to Jesus moment. Like, Maya, why haven't you been seeking out mentorship? Why have you been doing it all by yourself? That's powerful. You're right. You're supposed to seek it out. Come
You
on.
got to seek it
But
out.
no, you
And
know what? I do think that a part of the reason why I've been that way in terms of like looking for mentors in certain spaces, because for one, I am so afraid of failure. I'm not even gonna lie. I am so afraid of failure. And I'm like, if I can get some help from somebody who has done this before, you know, why try reinventing the wheel?
Got
You
you.
know, so I think that that's a big driver of just
mhm,
why I go out looking for mentors. So
Got you. Yeah, I'm not afraid of failure. That's the difference in our personalities. I'm going for it. If it don't happen, look,
yeah, that's it.
I went for the pitch competition,
Go
and
for it.
it was great, but I didn't win. But I was like, I learned. It's kind, but I did get training. I didn't just go and do.
Mhm.
But no, that's not true. I applied for last year, and they didn't pick it, and they said, but we want you to be a part of our cohort so that we could train you how to make a better one. And that's how I roll. I just try, and if
Just
I
go try it.
fail,
Yeah.
it's okay because I'm gonna. It's like it's a growth mindset. You just fail forward. I failed last time. They didn't even pick my pitch, but they said you could be a part of our cohort to train, and I did. It's free, and they just taught me. And then I made another one, and I got picked this time, but I didn't win. But I have a year plan, and maybe next time. That's how I roll. I don't mind failing. Howie, I'm sorry, I cut you. Well, do you have mentors?
No, not really. I'm with you on that. I'm a mixture of what we've been talking, but what's been mentioned so far. Like a lot of what I do is just me. I sort of, eat the fruit and spit out the seeds. I really, I like to listen. I like to occupy various spaces. Like I'm adventurous in that respect. Like I'll go and listen. I'll go to this or go to that event. I'll go to this or that conference. I will, and listen to folk, and like low key, they're my mentors and they don't realize it. Like, you know what I
Really?
mean? Like that's how I go. Like I meet people, I'll get their, contact information. I will, that's how I end up. And it's just like for this or that in any particular reason, anything that I need a, something that I'm looking at specifically that I want to get information about, and I'll hit that person or that person, and then it's just networking experience. For me, mentor, because there's this other aspect of mentorship where sometimes they do find you. I think if you're actively doing the
Mhm.
mentorship thing, where I'm searching for a mentor for this particular, season or purpose or whatever, right? Then that's when you seek them out. But then sometimes they happen very naturally. And boy, I do remember, again, like you've mentioned about culture, how much culture plays a role in it. Because when I was back in New York, and just among the being exposed to the science community, the STEM community back in New York, where there's a number of us in that environment, oh, that was heaven. Like that was just like I knew people left and right, like right. But then when I went to other areas of the country where it wasn't so
Mhm.
diverse, then that was a struggle. That became a struggle, and also again different parts. We talk about, okay, being a New Yorker versus being a I had to learn, for example, Gator Nation culture. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like going to Florida, and then there's this other type of vibe when it comes to who people help out. I'm talking about nepotism. Sorry, but like so there's this other aspect. There's a southern vibe that's different for us as Black folks. So there's a lot of different dynamics why I feel like the mentorship thing has been sort of hit and miss for me.
Yeah,
But
I
I
hear.
have had some who most of the ones that I have had were primarily natural. The Lord just put people in
Mhm.
my midst, and they saw me, and for whatever reason
You.
they desired to just latch on to me and you know commit to me along the way.
Yeah, the Lord has helped me as well, just dropping
Mhm.
opportunities in front of me that I didn't have to seek after because somebody told me this is what you should do. So I'm truly
Yeah.
blessed. But maybe it's a little time to like enlarge my territory by seeking after mentors. But we gotta go. So we got about 20 more minutes, 15 more minutes. So let's move through our next topic, which is diversity and inclusion. In what ways do you think advancing diversity and inclusion in STEM can impact leadership effectiveness and innovation within your industry? That's a powerful question. Being in Florida, it's a curse word now. It feels like, um, and it amazes me that when George Floyd died, it was so popular, and in a turn of a couple of years, it just became a curse word. How is that? It just didn't seem sincere. And but it's so necessary, and it has broad effects. I love my institution in that every search committee has to have a person that's underrepresented in it. So when we're searching for a new faculty, we have and that's kind of hard for people like me, who like one of the few underrepresented people, faculty members. I'm always getting calls to be a part of some
Mhm.
research committee, so I have to be very delicate with my time. But the ones that are really important to me, like STEM, especially, whenever like I was a part of a physics search committee, I would like because who is chosen, especially in institutions like mine, where it's heavily underrepresented minorities, like like 70%, 60 to 70% are underrepresented minorities. So how can you have the leadership and the institution that's teaching these students, and they hardly of them any of them look like the demographic in which you're serving? So you wonder why there's so many disparities in all kinds of fields: criminal justice, healthcare, education. Could it be that there's not enough people that look like the people that they're being served, or being, yeah, who are being served? At this, the biases. Can you imagine the implicit biases that are happening?
Mhm.
So I
But
think
yeah.
DEI is so
I mean,
important.
I think just to speak to that point you just said, it's actually been shown with data, particularly
Mhm.
in the healthcare field, right? When Black patients are taken care of by Black physicians, their outcomes are better. So just in that in and of itself says shows the importance of representation. Um,
Period.
when I first came here and I was rounding at the hospital, and I was like, why are and I know the demographic of the Orlando area, and I'm like, why is it that more than half of the patients that are admitted, right, because these are people with complications, they are underrepresented minority people, but then a lot of the people who are taking care of them, leadership, all that, they don't look like the patients. And sometimes you can see why patients are not heard, or they're just misunderstood, or they're looked over, because I just think that there is a certain level of understanding that we have about these patients that somebody else might not. So I think it's absolutely important that we increase representation in some of these fields.
For better outcomes.
Better
Mhm.
outcomes.
For better outcomes, if that's what you want. But I wonder if that's what people want. What do you guys feel?
Well,
Jamal,
You
Howard.
know, I
Go ahead,
oh
Howard.
go ahead, Howard.
I
Yeah,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, I think people just there's a huge level of ignorance. There's a huge level of misunderstanding. And because of the knee-jerk reaction that you mentioned when we began with the Floyd situation and situations like that, where everyone feels like, okay, this is just the direction we're going to go in, and it doesn't really feel genuine, etc. And it didn't even hang around long enough for them to even see if there would be benefit. But the data shows, I did one of my excursions out to learn some more and about organizations and do some more work like that. I've got a graduate certificate in organizational leadership with a concentration in organizational development, right? And it is the data is there. It is absolutely there that shows that the more diversified your organization is on a number of levels, improves your productivity, improves your overall output. And so it's there. People, there is not, they don't need to squeeze any more data out. Like it's already there to show that this is a thing. It's really just a matter of, it really is a matter of the leadership. Like that's a cultural shift. That's something that that leadership has to agree to say, hey, this is what we want to do, and because we have a vision, something we want to accomplish, and this is what we're going to do. It has to be a conscious decision,
It has to
and
be.
it just has to be.
Mhm. Jamal?
Yeah, for me, I would say that there are some companies that are just rotten, right? Like, they just have a bad core about them. But I think the vast majority of them want to do right, but they're lazy, right? And
Boom.
so diversity and inclusion actually takes effort, right? And not only does it take effort, but it takes funds, right? It takes concentration, it takes people. And so the easy way is just to say, all right, you know what? We need this position or we need this thing done. Go find somebody to do it. And the easiest thing we know how to do is say, hey, I know a person, just go get them, right? Or, all right, you know what? I've gotten 5, 10 applicants. It's not really diverse, but they have the background we need. Let's go for it, right? It takes a lot more effort to say, you know what, look, we may need to open the application pool up for a little bit longer. It may take longer to fill the role, right? Or it may take a little longer or it may take a lot more money, right, to have a whole diversity person, right? To have someone sitting in a chief diversity office position, just that position alone is
Cost
is
money.
enough money, right? But now you get that person, and then they have to have a team. Then you have a team underneath there. All this stuff is beneficial, and it makes the company stronger, right? There's data for it, but at the end of the day, it's just a bottom line thing. And I think what Kamoy mentioned is kind of spot on. I think that the the more we can get into leadership and be a presence, it becomes easier and more natural. So when I see internships, when I see job postings, now I can send them off, right? Now I can kind of field candidates as well. So the pool of candidates isn't limited to, primary white institutions. Right now, it's opened up to people that I know that may have went to HBCUs where they may not have known about this position before.
That's what we
Just
got to
like you,
do.
Maya. Yes, like with you, Maya. Like there's people that would not get scholarships otherwise if you weren't in a position, right?
Yeah.
So and come on, the same reason. Like there's some doctors right now that would be sitting here looking for internships, feeling isolated, but because you're there right now, they can grow and they can blossom. And so I think that's kind of how we have to approach it, right? We have to put in the grunt work now, like the people before us, to to make it a natural and easy process because just we're wired to do things the easy and fast way.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest hurdle right now is us getting into those positions. And it's tough because not only do we have the headwinds pushing us back to say, okay, you know what, you don't really fit culture wise, but we have the headwinds of you have to have the skills, right? Then once you have the skills, you have to have the desire to
Desire.
go in and put up with all the stuff and deal with all
Yeah,
the people, right?
yeah.
And so it gets starts getting whittled down real fast. So it's, I think for us, DEI is super critical because we're in positions, all of us, right, where we can field and bring people into technical fields that have growth potential, right? And so so yeah, so that's I think that's huge for us and huge for kind of where we are, kind of,
All
you know.
right. We,
one
So
one of the major things that I've seen, especially in my organization, is them taking the lead when it comes to really allowing mentorship programs, internal mentorship programs, where you can actually, I'm just going back to that, where you can actually sign up to be either a mentor or to be a mentee and do that.
mhm,
But there's also an initiative where we have a group of folk who said who through their connections they started a movement. It's not really an office, but started a movement where where you sign up to be a part of recruitment, to be a part of, because we, especially when we went virtual, where you can sign up, and it was literally specifically for HBCUs at the time, and the way they spun it, so to speak, was that if you have a background with the HBCU and you like to contribute, we're trying to get on campus. We're trying to get on the campuses. We know that our particular area is not very well advertised. You could do USA Jobs. It's like no one knows about
mhm.
usajobs.gov. It's like, so it was just a matter of being known, being out there. And when we were allowed to go and do that thing, it caught fire throughout the entire agency, where a lot of folk, not only people of color, other people as well, were like, well, I'm gonna go out there and let these people know that this
the
position
opportunity.
exists.
Okay.
So,
That's awesome. And that's a great idea. Go to the
Mhm.
HBCU. Okay, lastly, 1 minute, each person, 1 minute. Looking ahead, what are some leadership goals that you would hope to achieve in the next 5 years? And how do you plan to inspire the next generation in STEM? With me, I'm not trying to have a leadership position at my job. I want to be a CEO of a company and inspire STEM students that way. In the future is going to be something called TenYearMe app. In the future, in 5 years, is going to be this podcast is going to be uh, all over the world via my leadership of my own company. What about you guys? 1 minute each.
Yeah, I would have to say I typically don't like the question I don't know, and I definitely like planning, but this is one that I wrestle with myself, right? You know, do you do the entrepreneurship role? Still keep climbing? So I'm still trying to figure it out now. Waiting on some leaning. Waiting on some.
That's fine. Still don't know yet. Go ahead.
Don't know.
Well, I guess I don't know if it's more. It's not an official leadership role that I want to take, but because I told you I feel about admin. But I do want to at least continue to do what I'm doing in terms of being able to have more of us enter medicine and just see us more of us represented in the patient population that we take care of.
Love it. Love it. Lastly, Howard.
yeah, so one of the things I didn't mention before, we mentioned about, like, why or why not going into pushing over into leadership. And like I said, because of the amount of work that's involved, first line management. My kids, man, like, I really wanted to be more available at home. I really didn't want to put that burden on my wife and so forth. So things like that, that's one of the reasons why I sort of took a step back in that sense. But I do want to, one of the things I'm moving towards now, My particular agency just underwent a huge, in the process of, and underwent a huge reorganization, and there are a lot of offices and areas that are about to become available. So I am looking to see where I can fit the niches that sort of fit what I'm really looking for, what I'm really trying to do, because that's my biggest challenge. It's like, well, what do you really want to do? I don't want to just fit in wherever, according to whatever they have available, but I want to fit in according to my skills and abilities and what I can bring to the table.
Love it, love it, guys. This has been an awesome conversation as usual. We're sending love to Rochelle, and I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so are these STEM leaders, even though they don't know yet.